All right, we are so honored to have one of my favorite guys here in the whole NFL, and that's Greg Cosell at NFL Films. And he's not just at NFL Films; he is NFL Films. I mean, he's a senior production.
Don't tell my wife that.
Senior producer at NFL Films, and part of your many duties at NFL Films is like you're watching a ton of college tape. Along with when the season starts, you're watching a lot of guys in the NFL, watch a lot of NFL games. But for all intents and purposes, for what we're doing here at the draft, you've really prepared yourself. You love getting into the minutia of some of these players. And I'll start off right off the top. Big talkers obviously are Tua, Joe Burrow. We talked about Joe Burrow's small hands and all that other stuff. But you have a pretty strong take on which one you think is better.
I mean, I think Burrow is the best quarterback prospect in this draft. I think there's a calmness to his game, a poise to his game. He's got great vision. He's really precise with his ball placement. And, you know, that is often not talked about, Ben. You know, that we talk about so many. We're caught up now in an era where everybody talks about the ability to run around for a quarterback. And, by the way, Burrow can do that. But I think, and you know this being a former player, you still have to teach the position. You know, when coaches start with mini camps or OTAs or whatever they call them these days, you know, they start, here's what we do with 3-step drops. Here's what we do with 5-step drops. Here's what we do with our play action 7-step drop game. Here's the receiver's routes that sync up with all those particular drops. That's the way the position is taught. No coach rolls the ball out and say, let's just run around and make a play today. So it's still taught as a structured, timing, rhythmic game. Now, obviously, 100% of the plays don't work out like that, but you still teach it that way. And I think Burrow is really good at the timing rhythm element, both early in the down and later in the down, being able to stay in the pocket. And then he's got the ability to move. Tua, to me, I don't think he's a high-level athlete. I think that for him to be a great quarterback and reach his ceiling, stylistically, he'll have to play like a Drew Brees. Now, I'm not saying he can't do it. You know, and I know Drew Brees is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's Drew Brees. I'm saying stylistically. But I think he's going to have to be a highly rhythmic player in which the RPO game is a major part of what you do with him because he did so much of that in college.
You guys get all that? You see why he's one of the best? I mean, that is the most complete and most articulate breakdown that I've heard so far at the draft. Now, we're talking quarterbacks, and we're not going to get those guys. I mean, I know the Vikings, we have Kirk Cousins. There's the talk of extension. But there's always the need for high-level backups, just in the event that you need to use that guy. Are there any sort of guys that the Vikings may be targeting later in the rounds?
I'll tell you a guy that I like, and he would fit the Gary Kubiak offense because he did a lot of this in college, and that's Jake Luton from Oregon State, okay? He had a really good senior year. The numbers are the numbers, but they were really good, 28 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's a big kid, not a power arm, probably a Kirk Cousins-type arm, okay? But he did a lot of play action under center, which is exactly what this offense is going to be. He did a lot of play action in the gun. They do a lot of that as well. He has very functional movement ability if he needs to get out of the pocket. And I think he fits exactly what the Viking offense is. And he's going to be there in the 3rd or 4th, maybe even the 5th round. That's my sense. I'm not good at, at that, but he's certainly not going to be a top 60 pick. But I think he's a very interesting player for the Viking-specific offense because ultimately, when you look later in the draft for quarterbacks, you're looking for scheme adaptability. Because if the guy was transcendent, he wouldn't be available in the 4th round.
I'm telling you guys, another great, unique breakdown that we have yet to hear. Now, you and I were talking off camera, and again, you have another unique perspective. Vikings at 25, a lot of people think defensive player, specifically somebody in the back end, but you have a really good reason why the Vikings, even if they sign Anthony Harris, may still look at a safety-type player.
Well, I think the game has changed. The game is played predominantly now for a lot of defenses in sub-packages, meaning nickel or dime. Now, the Vikings are under Zimmer are a nickel defense. They don't play many with 6 defensive backs, many snaps. But now that sort of multi-dimensional safety who can also line up as a slot corner at times, who can play in the box at times, who can play both split safety or post safety. That sort of multi-dimensional guy has become, to me, a really important player in this league. And I think there's 2 guys in this draft who fit that early. And that's Xavier McKinney of Alabama and Grant Delpit of LSU. I really like Delpit because of his length. There's not a lot of guys who kind of look like that. Now, McKinney, I'm sure some will have him rated higher. It's not a matter of rating for me. They're a little bit different in just the way they play. McKinney is probably more of a true sort of slot corner type if you're looking for a slot corner, and whether the Vikings can retain Mackenzie Alexander, I guess we don't know that. But McKinney kind of reminded me a lot of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming out of Florida last year, and he did a really nice job for the Saints this year playing multiple positions, just what I'm talking about. So McKinney and Delpit, to me, are guys that kind of fit the NFL game now in the way it's evolved.
He's the best. Greg Cosell. You can find him on Twitter at Greg Cosell.